unattractive or something like that. Women have the capacity to be full sexual beings, full agentic sexual beings, just like men. So there's really nothing wrong with them pursuing that. If you are a woman or if you're a man, keep that in mind. And also, the number of sexual partners someone has had is completely irrelevant when it comes to consent. Just because someone has had few partners does not mean they won't want to engage in sex, but also just because someone has had many partners does not mean that they will automatically want to engage in sex with you. So basically what we're saying is that it's okay to be sexually empowered, it's okay to ask for what you want, in fact you should, but it's also not okay to assume that somebody else wants the same thing as you. So it's all about communication and kind of embracing your own sexuality and ways of expressing yourself sexually, as long as you communicate it. And there we go. Now we're talking about communication. See how I did that? Yes, I segued. Okay. So, like I said, be honest about what you want or don't want with your partners. How are you going to have a fully enjoyable sexual experience if you're not communicating what you want or what you're hoping for? Talking about something. Oh, should we do the talking about something doesn't ruin it, the playground?
Oh, sure.
Okay. If you want something specific during sex, you can say, I like it when you blah, blah, blah. That feels good when you do this. Do you want to try this, right? So I know it might feel awkward because we're really kind of socialized to not ask for things like that. It's supposed to be something we can just read each other's minds about, but we can't. Humans can't read each other's minds. We're not in an X-Men film. So we should, maybe someday, that would be wonderful, but we can't. So we communicate, and that is a really important part of good, consensual, satisfying sex. It doesn't ruin it to talk about it. I know that some people think that it's just going to ruin the moment, but it doesn't. A good analogy is something we like to talk about. It's a playground analogy. So talking about going on the playground, saying I want to go down the slide, I want to swing on the tire swing, I want to climb on the monkey bars, talking about those things you want to do on the playground doesn't make it less fun when you go down the slide. You're still super excited about going down the slide, right? So sex is kind of like that. Just because you say, I'm interested in engaging in this activity, does not mean you're going to enjoy the activity any less. Communication goes both ways, though. So if something's happening to you that you are uncomfortable with, or your partner's doing something that you're not comfortable with, you can say, can we just keep doing what we were doing before? Oh, I don't want to do this right now. Can we slow down? Of course, you can say no. That's a really good direct way of just not giving consent, revoking your consent, as we said. I need to go to the bathroom. If you're a little bit more evasive and don't really want to, say it outright, you can kind of just slip away. But yeah, it's okay if you're uncomfortable to leave, to stop, or even just keep doing what you've been doing before. Just because you're uncomfortable with, sex doesn't mean that you have to be uncomfortable with everything that happened before that. And also, since we're talking about having safe, consensual, healthy sex, and making the best of this experience that many of you will have, tell your partners if you have an STI or HIV status. If you haven't been tested and you've had sex with, someone, you should get tested. It's just the responsible thing to do. It's really not that hard. But if you know that you have, if you have had positive tests for STI or HIV and you haven't gotten it treated or something, you need to tell your partner. That is absolutely, there are no exceptions to that. It's just like, don't be, I wish we could swear.
I know. Well, we might be.
I'm probably just going to swear and be like, don't be a dick.
You probably are. Well, it's like, if you don't disclose something to a partner before sex, and if you had told them that, before you had the sex and they would have not had sex with you, that's not consent.
They're not really giving consent to you if you think that they would have decided not to have sex with you because of the status, right? That's not consensual. So that's important to remember when you're talking about consent. And don't be afraid to ask your partners about their sexual health. You are perfectly within your right to protect your body and to make responsible choices. And no one should shame you for asking about that. It's not uncool. It's just, not stupid. So just do it. Also, safe sex. You really need to communicate about contraceptives. Do you have a condom?
Duh, always prepared. See, that wasn't even an
Okay, I'll stop there. I'll be like, okay. You'll always need to communicate about contraceptives. Make sure that you're covered, that whatever you need to be doing is being done. So here, might sound scary, but it's really not. Hey, Sarah, do you have a condom?
You bet I do.
There you go. It's really, really not that hard. So also make sure you know how to correctly use contraceptives. Not
That's
all
got a lot more steps than you think.
not all schools kind of teach you about that. So make sure that before you engage in sex, you're prepared to use it correctly. If you're having sex with someone with a penis, if you're having sex with someone that can use a condom, make sure that that condom or that penis has a condom on it, okay? So unless you're in some kind of relationship where you are 100% positive it's monogamous and you're both getting tested and things like that, and you're on some other kind of contraceptives, you should be using a condom. It prevents, STIs. This is a college campus. People have multiple partners, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to use a condom to make sure that you aren't picking up anything, because it does float around. You might think it's a small campus, but it floats around, and, people will tell you that from experience.
And it makes cleanup easier, if you're on the go.
Right, yeah. I'm not going to be able to say stuff like that. That's a good point, Sarah. Okay. So, and yeah, same thing goes with birth control medications. If you're someone who's on birth control, you need to know how those work. You need to know when you should be taking it, how it's safe to use, any kind of possible complications or risks that could come with it. Just be empowered, just be knowledgeable. It's kind of important. It's like your body and whatever. Okay. So now we've kind of underlined the basics of what consent is, how you're going to get consent. We need to talk about when consent gets complicated, because it can get really complicated, and especially on a college campus. So you cannot give consent to something if you're coerced into doing it. Coercion is made up of flattery, intimidation, guilt trips, threats, and deception. Okay?
Do you want any?
Is that this slide? What?
Do you want to show what those are?
Oh,
Flattery,
yeah.
intimidation.
Okay, so we're going to give you a little example of all these different things that can be considered coercion. Okay, so flattery.
Maddie, you are so fine.
Oh.
I just think that you're probably the most beautiful girl in the world.
Wow.
Most attractive person I've seen.
Thanks. So I feel like that's going to be confusing for them.
Yeah, actually, as we talk about flattery, I'm not sure what we're supposed to say.
Because it's well, that's nice, though. Okay, maybe we don't give an example of flattery. Okay, so flattery,
Maybe we'll cross it out and then ask about it at a meeting if anyone else
okay.
has something else they want to say.
Yeah, because there's nothing really wrong with
Flattery's-
you're really pretty.
Yeah.
I find you really attractive. I'd like to have sex with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's oh, that's, thank you.
That's okay. Right. And so we're not going to. Okay, so intimidation, is pretty obvious, but
Yeah,
here's a quick
Maddie.
example.
Hey, how you doing? This is a wall.
Okay, this is the wall. She's backed me up
so-
against the wall.
Have you ever thought about having sex with me? Because I think that would be
No.
nice. And I know you're spending the night here.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, so you can see here, Sarah is making me really uncomfortable, okay? So that is an example of intimidation. She's using it what am I say, your body, just your physical.
yeah, I'm threatening you with my body. It's intimidating.
Yeah, she's using body language that is intimidating to me. We pretended there was a wall there. She backed me into a wall. She kind of cornered me and made me feel physically like I couldn't say no, basically, right?
And there was also a kind of implied threat in there. We normally think of threats have sex with me or I'm going to cut your hair off.
Mm-hmm.
But it can also be a threat if someone's I know that I'm your ride somewhere. And, maybe if I don't give you a ride if you don't have sex with me. Or
Right.
maybe you're sleeping over and I throw you in a dumpster.
Yeah, that's not good to do to people. But yes, so that's all good examples of what intimidation is. It basically means that you're threatening to, oh, that's threats under there, okay, intimidation. You are using your position of power that you have over that person or your physical body to cause them fear, basically, okay?
What do you think about adding intimidation and threats as one?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think
Okay.
that works well.
Right, and also threats, so you're basically saying that whether it's explicit or it's implied, something about this interaction is telling the person that there will be consequences, probably negative consequences, if they do not have sex with you, okay? So that's an example of intimidation and threats, okay? Guilt trips are another thing that, is involved in coercion, so.
And that can be something from like, I'm so alone and no one's touched me in months.
Yeah,
and
like,
I need to feel somebody.
I feel so unattractive, like nobody wants to have sex with me, like, things, like my girlfriend just broke up with me, I'm so sad. Things that are kind of designed to make the person that you're trying to have sex with feel that if they don't have sex with you, they're kind of somehow morally failing as a human being, right? Like they're not being a compassionate human being, something that makes them feel bad or guilty if they don't, right? So it's not like an outright threat or intimidation, like we just talked about. It's not anything that could be physically or mentally like threatening, but it is still coercive because you're not just like letting them choose to have sex with you with no influence, right? Okay, and so deception is the final one.
So I have a twin, FYI. Her name is Michael. Say that. So we're identical in every single manner. I'm like, hey, Maddie, you want to meet at my house later and have sex with me?
Sure.
And she goes to my house, and there is my identical twin, Michael, who is also a girl, FYI.
Yeah.
You were confused by that.
Michael.
And Michael pretends to be Sarah and has sex with Maddie.
Right. That is deceptive. That is not honest. Okay, so basically that just means lying to them. If they gave you your consent and somehow you got that consent via a lie, that is deception, okay? Consent can only happen when it's just a clear situation and you just both want it. I mean, there should just be no qualifiers or anything that muddles up that consent, okay? When did we do a $5 bill? Is that this one? Is that this slide?
Let's pull up the notes. Yeah.
Yep, okay. Lines are red lines. All right, yeah, there should be nothing muddling up that consent. There should be no blurred lines. No, I'm not gonna do that. Should not have any blurred lines going on.
Do we want to just use the $5 bill analogy instead of the other ones?
Yeah, that's too hard.
Afterwards, I was like, oh, that's what that was. Do you want to try and ask me for my dollar bill, or do you want me to ask you for yours?
I feel like you're better at asking for $5 bills.
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
You're more aggressive than I am. Okay.
Yeah.
So just kidding. So coercion, you can't coerce, blah, blah, blah. These are examples of what composes coercion. But basically it just means that you are changing that person's ability to say yes with their own free will. So there are consequences of some kind, whether it's threatening or intimidating consequence, or they're going to feel guilty afterwards, or it's just a straight up lie, right? So here's an example kind of a way that you can coerce someone into getting what you want. It may seem innocent at first, but it still messes up the consent. It makes consent impossible.
That's why flattery was in there. Because flattery works there with the $5 bill.
Okay.
Whatever, we'll put that in there.
Okay.
Hey, Maddie.
Hey, Sarah, what's up?
Can I have $5?
No. Okay, so then we should stop, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so pause. What just happened there? She asked me for $5. I said no because I don't want to give her $5. I would rather spend that $5 on Chipotle or, case of beer. Just kidding. Okay, on Chipotle or, food. So
Other things that you buy.
Other stuff that you spend money on in college.
And I want Maddie to give me $5.
She really wants $5. Okay,
I want to buy coffee because I like coffee.
Yeah,
and
okay.
So I need Maddie's money.
So that's first scenario, I said no. Okay, now we'll set this up better. I'll be like, consent. Okay, coercion. These are things that make up coercion. Okay. So now we're going to set up a little scenario for you so you can see coercion in action. Okay, so in this scenario, Sarah wants $5 from me because she wants to buy something, coffee, whatever, right? I don't want to give Sarah $5 because I am broke. Okay? I'm in college. I don't have $5 to give to Sarah, as lovely as she might be. I know, it's so sad. Okay, so here is the first situation in which Sarah is asking me for $5 and there's no coercion involved, okay?
Hey, Maddie, can I have
Yeah.
$5?
No. Okay, so that's scenario one. Here's scenario two. Sarah is asking me for $5 and she is going to coerce me into giving it to her.
Hey, Maddie, can I have $5?
No.
Really? I mean, I guess I was really shocked because, like, you know, normally, like, incredibly beautiful people are also really giving. And, like, I mean, you're so beautiful that I don't really see how you wouldn't give me $5.
Well, I don't know. I just like, I'm kind of like, do you want me to keep going or do you want me to just be like, okay?
I don't know. We can feel it
I'll just
out.
be like, okay, because I don't want to take this off and be like, okay, I guess. Okay, all right. Are we going to go through each one?
We could do intimidation and threats as one still.
Okay.
And
We should
I
do
was
guilt
thinking,
trips. Deception is
Yeah.
kind of harder to illustrate.
well, I was wondering if we could do maybe deception and guilt trips in one, because I was thinking of like a real life example where it's like blue balls,
Oh,
because you're lying to them like that you're in physical pain because they won't have sex with you, but you're also guilt tripping them.
that makes me nervous because what if somebody is like...
Well, I don't want to use the blue balls thing, but I'm
Oh,
just
right,
saying that
right,
made me
right,
think
oh,
of
right,
examples
right. Okay,
that
all
would be
right.
both
Okay.
deceptive and have
Okay,
guilt
so we're going to
trips.
go through all of them with the... Okay, so then when we set it up, I'll be like, so this is the next scenario. Sarah's going to coerce me using flattery. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so now Sarah's going to coerce me using guilt trips and intimidation. Threats and intimidation. Okay, so...
Hey, Maddie,
Hey.
can I have $5?
No.
Are you sure? Because
Yeah.
I really think that I need it.
But I don't really want to give it to you.
That's too bad because I want it. You know what would be really funny?
What?
If I stole your wallet and then punched you in the face. If you didn't give me $5.
Okay, here's $5. Right? So you saw Sarah was invading my space. She was making me feel uncomfortable. She was intimidating me with her body and with her words. Okay, so she was making me feel that, and she was also threatening me. Basically, she was making me feel that if I said no,
I was going to steal your wallet and punch you in the face.
she was going to steal my wallet and punch me in the face, or at the very least, continue to make me extremely uncomfortable, right? And everyone wants to avoid discomfort, so, you know, that's the way
Yeah.
that coercion works.
So
Okay.
give me $5 if I
Right.
ask.
So the last thing we're going to talk about with coercion is guilt trips and deception. Okay, so
Hey, Maddie, can I have $5?
no.
Oh, I mean, I guess it was just that, like, I haven't had any food today. And, like, I know that, I mean, I guess I thought you would give it to me because, like, a good person would. And I'm just so hungry. And, like, I've never actually eaten in my life.
Oh wow.
And no one else will give me money in the whole world because
Yeah.
you're the only person who really loves me.
Okay, here's $5. Right. So you can see there's kind of a continual trend. Basically, what's happening is Sarah knows or suspects that I will say no to the question that she wants to ask me, so she's prepared to implement other tactics to make sure that I say yes, okay? So here's a really good way to tell if you're not getting consent or if you're coercing someone. If you suspect that they may say no and you still try to convince them anyways, a person who you are having sex with should say yes of their own free will, right? So the consequence of yes and no should only be, like, for example, the consequence of saying yes or no to giving Sarah $5 should only have been, yes, I don't have $5, no, everything stays the same, right? It shouldn't have been, no, Sarah's not going to be my friend anymore, Sarah's going to punch me in the face and steal my wallet, you know, yes, I don't have $5, okay? So,
And that doesn't mean you don't still ask. Like, if you're in a first date with someone and, like, you think they might be into you, and you're like, hey, do you want to have sex? You don't know if they're going to say no or yes.
right. If you think the answer might be no, you can still ask. You just can't use any of these
Yeah.
tactics to convince them, right? You just take the answer as it is, and then, you know, hopefully they'll want to have sex with you, like, you know, another time.
Yeah, because they were really impressed by...
But how respectful you are.
Yeah.
Exactly. There you go. Win-win. Okay. So, we just talked about this. If you know the answer will be a no and you try to change their mind, if they tell you their answer will be a no and you take that to mean they need convincing, they do not need convincing. They made their mind up already. If you are in a position of power and or authority over them, okay? So, you know, that can be physical power. It can also just be sort of mental or some authority or some kind of mental power or some kind of authoritative position, right? So that's where we get back to teacher persuading a student to have sex with them for a grade or something like that. that's coercion because they're in a position of power over that student.
And even if, the people will both say, like, I'm not blackmailing you into getting a good grade, I just want to have a relationship with you, there's still that element of power imbalance, which makes it really iffy.
Right. Okay. So now, continuing along this when consent gets complicated sort of theme we've been talking about, we're going to talk about alcohol, drugs, and consent. This is college. We know people on this campus drink. We are not here to tell you not to drink alcohol, okay? That's not our mission. We're also college students. That's not what we're here for, okay? So just don't worry about that. But we are here to tell you how being under the influence of alcohol and drugs can make consent a little bit more complicated than simply being sober and giving your consent, right? So legally, someone who is severely drunk or unconscious as a result of intoxication cannot give consent. So, this is pretty self-explanatory, but if someone's like too drunk to walk, too drunk to speak intelligibly, or, stay awake, you probably shouldn't have sex with them. It's, seems like a really obvious thing, but it happens more than you would think. So, if you notice that someone is about to have sex with someone, or you're about to have sex with someone that literally needs to be carried out the door, that needs to be propped up, that is completely not able to speak or say anything, obviously they're not able to consent. They can't even say yes to the question, right? Also, giving someone alcohol for the sole purpose of having sex with them, that's not consent. That's another form of coercion, okay? You are giving them alcohol because you suspect that if they were sober, they would not normally have sex with you, okay? So, don't do that. You can still drink with your friends or with your prospective, sexual partner, but, don't give them alcohol just because you want to have sex with them. Just give them alcohol or have alcohol with them because you both like drinking alcohol. That's a different situation. We already talked about this. Don't have sex with someone too drunk to function, They need to be able to function to engage in sex. That's just, that's just biology right there. You gotta be able to move. Okay. And yeah, if someone is sick, like if they're vomiting or they can't speak until as you walk, stay conscious. They cannot consent. Good rule of thumb there. Just don't do it. If someone vomits on you, they should go home.
Yeah, I'd also wonder why you're still
why would you want to have sex with someone who vomits on you or like can't move? That. I don't think that would be enjoyable. Okay. So, legalities of consent. There are laws about consent here in this country and in this state, okay? So you need to know those laws. Legally, a person cannot consent to sex if they are physically or mentally disabled, okay? That's just where we get into that power imbalance sort of thing. Just don't do it. They're under the age of consent, 16 in Ohio, and their partners are over 18. If you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or partner back home and they are 15, you meet someone from Westerville High School or middle school or whatever, just leave them alone. Leave them alone until they're 16. Okay, that's another power imbalance thing, that age sort of and developmental difference is really, moves the balance of power so that it's unequal. And again, they're severely intoxicated or unconscious due to alcohol or drugs. So basically they cannot function, okay? They're a little tipsy, that's a different thing. They cannot function. Keep your
bits to yourself.
Stuff away from their parts, okay? Stuff away from their parts. All right, good, okay. So hopefully by now you kind of know why consent is so important, but we want to underline kind of like why we think consent is so important, why hopefully you also think that. It is pretty...
Yeah, you laser point that.
Do we have a note on the slide, or are we just kind of...
we probably...
Why are you filming? I keep looking at the camera.
Because we can look at it after.
Okay.
Like, I can send it to you, and we can be like, oh, man, that's... Maybe we need to work on that.
Right, okay, yeah. So, I need... I'm going to print this out and write notes on it. So, yeah, hopefully you know that by now, but, we're going to summarize it for you, just so you really got it. We're not here just to tell you how not to rape people. We're also here to tell you how to have better sex. More consensual, the better, right? The more enthusiastic each partner is and, excited, probably the better the sex is going to be. That's just kind of, obvious.
no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, right? You want to have sex with someone who is enjoying it. Okay. So
I actually
here's-
made a chart to
Yeah.
help you with that.
Sarah made a chart for you guys, okay? Hopefully, if you understand how important consent is, you like having sex with people who are 100% into it, okay?
Even if you hadn't heard any of this, I would still hope that you're like,
Yeah.
when I have sex with people, I want them to be into it.
Right. And again, we think that this is really obvious. Now that you've seen this presentation, you probably think this is really obvious, but because we live in a culture called the rape culture, which we're going to talk about, that sort of condones and confuses our knowledge about rape, a lot of people get into these situations not even understanding what consent is or whether or not they have it, okay? So basically, just only have sex with people if you're sure they really want to have sex with you.
Tap in.
Okay, you're up.
I'm up. Get ready for the fun part.
All right, everybody. Now Sarah's going
Okay.
to talk to you guys about the reason why sometimes people get confused about consent, why it's not just obvious to us to respect each other's bodies, and that reason is called rape culture.
Yeah, okay, you can get out of my presentation now.
Sorry.
Rape culture.
I was trying to introduce you.
I introduced myself.
Okay.
Now, rape culture, some of you may or may not have heard of. It sounds kind of weird. And this is a definition that actually came from the Sexual Assault Response Network of Central Ohio, or SARNCO, which is why it looks like a grown-up definition. But we're going to go ahead and break it down. Basically, it's when the culture you live in, kind of condones or tolerates rape. It's where, TV shows will show situations that are rape as consenting sex. Or when, we see someone who may have, committed rape, and we go, well, there are these reasons. I'm not going to say that. So, a really important part of rape culture are rape myths. And rape myths basically have three components. And those are victim blame, perpetrator absolution, and minimizing or rationalizing sexual violence. So the first one, we're all pretty familiar with if you've ever heard anything about rape, ever. Especially if it's a legal case that you've heard. And that's where, you'll hear the police officers, the judges, the parents, the other students saying well, she's kind of a slut because look at the clothes she wears. So,
Yeah.
can she really be raped if she's wearing that outfit?
Doesn't she want sex from everybody if she's wearing a short skirt?
Yeah, I don't know what else you're supposed to wear, maybe a short skirt that says, don't touch. I don't
Unless
know.
I tell you to.
Maybe that's teasing. I'm not sure. We all, we've all seen these, don't walk home so late, you're going to get raped. Don't drink if you're a woman, because you're going to get raped. And don't go into anyone's room ever, because they want to have sex with you in it, and you know that, apparently, every time you go into someone's room. So, beware. Perpetrator absolution sounds the, most grown up. Grown up means weird, obviously. And that's basically just when we're is the rapist really, he might have been kind of justified, don't you think? And that's where we go well, he was drunk. How can you expect a drunk person to be responsible for their actions? Which you may have noticed is kind of a little weird from the one here, a little different. Yeah, that significant eye contact was so you'd pay attention. Teasing, the weird idea that if I'm flirting with someone and giggling, I guess, that was somehow consenting to everything that Maddie would want to do, which is weird.
Right, because who knows what I want to do.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe I'm flirting with Maddie because I'm bored.
Yeah, or she wants to make out, that's okay. Or she wants to go for a walk or do some other stuff,
Yeah, or we're in a 80s rom-com and I have to get you to make out with me or something, and then I'll win a bet, but I'm not going to say any of this. I don't know why I just did.
Oh,
See-
sorry, can I make a note? Do you care if I make a note?
You should make a note in here.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, when you talk about did you see what she was wearing, I think you should, like, really emphasize, like the fact that it's, like, really stupid that we think someone consents to sex just because of what, like, clothes they're wearing, like, and then, like, using, you know, like, you don't consent to, like, you know, I don't know,
Yeah.
something else. Just, you would never, like, just say, I always consent to, like, this activity.
Yeah, it's like we don't really broadcast things
Yeah.
that we wear on our body.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if I'm walking around wearing plaid, I'm not really advertising that I'm a lumberjack or that I can fix your furniture.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm wearing not a lot of clothing, I'm not advertising that you can get in it, the
Yeah.
clothing.
There you go.
The clothing comes off, you know what I meant.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it really doesn't make sense that you'd think that that means anything.
Always want to be. Okay.
Miss Muttermouth.
Sorry.
So we've all heard the other ones, you know, drinking room. We already did that. Sorry. We're on the side.
It's harder than it
So,
looks.
yeah. So when there's a perpetrator, right, and they rape someone, probably, we tend to absolve them as a society by giving, like, excuses for their actions, by, like, rationalizing. One excuse that's used a lot is if the perpetrator was drunk, which is weird because if a sexual, like, if a victim is drunk, that means it's their fault. But if you're a perpetrator, it makes it not your fault. So that's weird. There's this idea that, like, if someone teases you, like, I don't know, they're, like, morally required to, like, give you whatever you thought they were teasing you with. It's like, I don't know. I was going to say something about dogs, but I won't.
What?
I was going to say, like, you know, when you, like, tease a dog, it'd be like the dog having full
Right.
go ahead to, like, eat your hand.
Yeah.
And we don't think that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, luckily, dogs don't do that.
Yeah. So you can't tease someone with your body.
Yeah. Another thing that's gets thrown around a lot by heterosexual couples is like, well, you know, she seemed into it. Or, like, she didn't say no, so how is he supposed to know that she didn't want it? I see that a lot with people who are like, well, you know, girls, like, they giggle and they, like, push you and say, like, stop. But they're, like, they look happy, I guess. And that's one of the situations where it's like, just ask.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you ask them, you're like, I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed signals. Like, do you want to have the sex?
The sex.
And they're like, oh, yeah. And you're like, okay, okay, well, just, like, say this if you want me to stop, or, like, say it really firmly, just so that you know that they're into it, because that's important. And minimizing or rationalizing sexual violence, that's when we, you know, kind of say stuff like, okay, you know, someone raped this other person, right? But does the person who was raped really, like, is it that big of a deal? I mean, if she, like, you know, tries to go to court with the other person and is all like, you know, you raped me, I mean, that might ruin the other person's life. Ruin it. Is it really worth that? I mean, it's just like rape, like, what is that? Yeah, that's minimizing it big time. And then rationalizing rape is equally as weird as anything else. You get like a kind of weird scientific evolutionary biology thing where people are like, well, as everyone knows, the first humans raped people because, you know, men, you know, they have a lot of sperm, and if they get sperm count, then they get more babies, they continue their genes, but there's not any reason for them to, like, stop at one. So they can, like, go around and do it. Whereas women, you know, people with those ovaries, if they get pregnant or have a baby, they have to spend a lot of time on it. And they can't have any other baby for them, even sometimes for years after. And so the idea is, like, it makes evolutionary sense for dudes to go around raping people because it'll pass their genes on. Fun fact about history in terms of that, So we don't know, even if we thought we really knowed, we really knew. I think we can go ahead and ascertain that, the human population is pretty steady in terms that we're probably not gonna run out of humans. So
Not anytime
it's not really necessary. Probably not something you'd use to justify a rape yourself. Like, well, I just wanted to get my genes out there.
It's like using murder to justify overpopulation,
Yeah.
using overpopulation to justify murder.
Like, you probably killed them for some other reason. You're just backtracking and like,
Yeah.
well, there are too many people here. I'm just helping.
Yeah, like
God.
it's, we're just trying to save the planet. Well, that's still not okay to murder someone.
That's probably not the method that we would condone.
No, exactly.
for-
So spreading genes,
Yeah, there's other ways to spread genes,
just
like,
try to ask somebody.
having a baby with someone who also wants to have a baby with you. That's the way a lot of people do it, and I think it works out pretty great. So we've kind of talked about what makes a rape myth. And now we're going to go ahead and go over some really common ones. These are ones that are going to be, like, you've all heard them. Everyone has heard the weird narrative where you're like, if you're walking in a dark alley at night, you're going to get raped by a stranger. Like, that's just like 100% certainty. Like, no, it's not. Approximately 70% of rape victims know they're rapists. So unless those strangers and allies are just pretending to be a stranger, like, that's not how it happens. And rape also often occurs during the day and in someone's home. So, it doesn't actually happen in that alley alone at night with that random person. This is one that I want to throw all over everyone's faces. This is a typical, I'm going to say dude, because 99% of rapists are men, and I just like saying dude. So this is something like dudes will say, like, if someone is, like, suspected of raping someone, they'll be like, she's probably lying. I mean, right? Like, what reason would she have to tell the truth? She wants to get back at him, or, get him kicked off something. Ignoring the fact that it's incredibly unlikely that they will be, negatively damaged in terms of getting, kicked off or other kind of damages to them. The FBI has actually estimated that there are only 0.6% of false rape reports, which is a lot less than the normal 2% for other felonies. So, like, there's less false rape reports than other felonies false reports. Like, I just want to make sure you get that, because a lot of people think that, like, I don't know, saying that someone raped me is, like, a really easy way for me to, like, get back at them for, like, not going on a date with me or something. Really unlikely to happen like that. This goes back to victim blaming. Like, if I'm drunk, it's not open season. Like, it's just not like, oh man, I had 3 drinks, I'm kind of drunk. Anyone can have sex with me. No. And provocative clothing, same way. If I show some boob and leg, that doesn't mean you can be like, yeah, I can have sex with you and you're consenting. It's not true. Nothing equals automatic consent. I mean, unless they say, like, yes, I want to have sex with you. But that's verbal. Many women say no when they really mean yes. And that kind of goes back to, when we were talking about asking and making sure. Because, I don't know, I guess it seems weird. Like, if I'm being like, oh, no, I don't want to. You're silly. Like, maybe I do that because I think that that's attractive. Maybe I'm doing it because Maddie is really scaring me right now, but I don't want her to know that, because I may be overreacting, but I don't want to be near her. And so that's a way for me to say no. And so if that's happening, like, stop. You may think it's weird, but it's not. If you're like, do you want me to leave? Like, what's happening? And then they can elaborate and you can go on your merry way.
The worst thing that can happen is that you will miss out on an opportunity for sex. If they say no and you stop. If they say no and you're not really sure if they actually mean no, and you have sex with them anyways, the worst thing that can happen is that you raped someone. So
yeah, that's true.
Just like weighing the
yeah
consequences.
And I mean, I know that I would probably feel really bad if I rape someone
I would.
because I didn't
I
clarify.
think I probably would too.
Yeah, so I could make a pie chart of that, but I won't. You can't be raped by someone you're in a relationship with. We already went over that, but this is really relevant because it actually did not used to be illegal to rape your wife. If you're married to her, you couldn't rape her. And there's also the fact that 40 to 50% of battered women are raped by their partners. So these are people who are in relationships and rape is still happening. So like, once again, nothing equals automatic consent. This is a gem, a nice gem there. You can't be raped if you're sexually active. Apparently, once the process has begun, it's another automatic yes. That's not. There's also this idea that, rapists will go after people who are known for their sexual activity, which is not true. Typically, rapists, kind of pick victims based on opportunity. Who's there? Is this the easiest possibility? So it's not based on your level of sexual activity. Consenting to one sexual act does not mean you're consenting to everything. I think we can all agree there are things that, you want to be asked about and you want to be able to say no to. I'm getting hot and heavy with someone, we're, grinding or something, and all of a sudden, I back away or pants are off, and then they could put something in my butt. They did not ask me. I do not want things in my butt. And I did not consent to that, so they should have asked me. But just because I consented to the other stuff doesn't mean that I did. When in doubt, think of the butt thing, because some people really like stuff in their butt, but a lot of people don't, especially with no prior preparation, which is really important for butt stuff.
Are you going to do that in the presentation?
Probably. I want them to know.
Okay.
There's literally no sexual situation which is not improved by lube. Literally none.
I know that. That's probably true. Okay, just checking.
Just let me.
I'm letting you do it. I'm sorry.
Let me ride.
A good analogy there could be you can do it like a food analogy. Be I want
Ooh, okay.
Sometimes I want a small scoop of ice cream. Doesn't mean I want a whole gallon of ice cream. Sometimes I do want a whole gallon of ice cream. Sometimes that sounds good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a good. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
We're practicing, so.
Yeah, we are practicing.
You interrupted me too, so.
Yeah, I did. It's fine. Or you could think of it as Mexican food.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're I want a quesadilla with a little bit of spice on it. And then you got your quesadilla and they put a shit ton of spice on it and all these scary peppers. And you're like, whoa, what? And they're like, well, since you liked a little spice, I thought you'd want, the fires of hell on your plate. No, typically that's not what that means.
Right. And then your taste can change at any given day. Sometimes you're in the mood for Mexican, sometimes you're in the mood for Panera, whatever.
Yeah. But, general, go ahead and just make sure. Just a quick check-in. And the last one is one that they're all problematic, but this one is really problematic in that it completely erases a lot of people's experiences and says that they are literally not possible. And that's the idea that men can't be raped, especially the idea that men can't be raped by women, which is untrue. 1 in 33 men have experienced an attempted or completed rape. That's a pretty significant amount. And this number is also likely a lot higher in reality because it's still a point where no one wants to come forward and say it happened to them because that's not manly. Mm-hmm. And, it's just very invalidating. It erases their experience, and it means that if someone, comes to you and is like, hey, I got raped, and they're a man, and you're like, oh, no, you didn't. She just tied you to a chair, and then you got surprise sex. That's not what it is.
She tied you to a chair.
I'm sorry, that was on an episode something.
Okay.
So now that we know about rape culture and rape myths that were all presented in beautiful, very well thought out ways, what kind of culture do we think Irvine has? Do we think it's one? So we don't want to say rape free or rape prone. Are we staying away from that?
I would say anti-rape, or is it a rape culture or is it an anti-rape culture? You know what I mean?
Sorry, when you said anti-rape, I was like, Or pro-rape?
Pro-rape, this is a pro-rape culture. Well, I just mean like, because I'm thinking like, just because it could be an anti-rape culture and there still could be like the occasional rape on campus, but it would just mean that everybody that found out about it was like equally appalled and like, you know.
So maybe like how was rape treated? Or like what kind of culture does Otterbein have? Like is it one
Is it a
that...
rape culture and an anti-rape culture?
Okay. So now that we've done the other fun stuff, what kind of culture do you think Otterbein has that you've experienced? Like, do you think it's more of a rape culture? Do you think it's like an anti-rape culture?
Do you think that the students, administrators, faculty, staff, like the people that like are engaged in this culture and like identify with this culture, do you think that they condone rape in any of these ways we talked about, or do you think that they adamantly, you know, work to stop and punish rape?
Yeah,
Yes.
it basically goes back to the definition of rape culture, where it had like that general attitude of media, or in this case, like authority figures or other students, you know, kind of condoning, minimalizing, rationalizing rape, or going ahead and, you know, blaming victims, absolving perpetrators, all that stuff. So if you're anti-rape, you know, you don't do those things, and you actually work out to try and, like, you know, go ahead and prosecute every rape case, you know, to the fullest extent after finding out the truth. So talk to me.
Talk to me.
We'll do the song here. I feel like this went a lot more flowing at One Point Rising. Maybe we've looked at it too long.
I think we're just like working it out, that's all. I think that tomorrow, like we went through it, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, and we're not doing it tomorrow, so.
It's fine, that's true. Right. No, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah, so should be good. Where are you? Get out of here. I don't need to see myself see that. So I can